Hello and welcome back, my dear students. My name is Manthan and today we are going to learn our new topic, that is spring tides and neap tides. So in the last video I have told you how the tides occur. Okay, like I have shown you a few photos and I have explained you what are the factors affecting the tides. Okay, so you remember, first is the gravitational force of moon, second is the gravitational force of sun, and third is the centrifugal force of the earth. Okay, so this kind of three factors that affect our ocean tides. So in that I told you there are two types of tide, that is high tides and low tides. Okay, when this moon is on the top of that certain place, so that time we get to see high tide. And when another part happens, when the moon is kind of a little bit on different side, that time what happens is low tides. And I also told you that in order to balance one side effect on the opposite side, what happens is that due to the centrifugal force of the earth, there is the same effect occurring on the opposite side. So that much we have studied in our previous video, and in today's video we are going to learn about what are spring tides and what are neap tides. So let's get started with our today's video. So first of all we have to learn what is syzygy. Okay, so I hope, like I think no one amongst you have kind of heard about this word, because it is very rarely used in our education system. Like maybe it is a difficult word, so that's why it is not even given in our textbook. So syzygy is the moment when all the celestial bodies, let's say in our context the sun, earth and the moon, okay, these celestial bodies are in one plane. Okay, like they are in one plane, like they are similar to each other. So what happens is that when these kind of events happen, what we generally get to see is that the motion of the, like, sorry, not the motion but the force of attraction of the gravity of the sun and the moon is acting in one direction as compared to our earth. So what happens is that here is the sun, here is the moon, and here is the earth. So you get to see the moon and the sun is kind of exerting force, gravitational force on the earth in the same direction. Okay, like it is pulling it in this way. So what happens is that the both the forces of the sun and the moon are combined, and what happens is that more water is kind of attracted towards the sun and the moon, which are in the same line, and this kind of phenomenon gives rise to extra high tides than we get to see normally. So this is called as spring tide. Okay, so as you know, the gravitational equation, like the force of the ratio of moon and the sun is like 5 is to 11. Okay, 5 of the sun and 11 of the moon. Like I'm talking about gravitational force exerted on the water of earth, okay, by moon and by sun. So what happens now is that 5 and 11 both are now combined, and almost about 16 is the force of like if we combine both of these, earth, sun and moon. Okay, so syzygy is important for you so that you could understand what is spring tide. So spring tide is nothing but when the force, attractional force or gravitational force of moon and sun combines to form the bigger tides that are like more than normal. So you see the same effect is going to be happening on the opposite side due to the centrifugal force. So you can see on the opposite side also it is bulging, and you can see extra low tides in these other two areas. Now the same syzygy but just different position of the moon. Like here we get to see the sun, sorry, the moon is inside the sun and the earth, but in the second position we get to see the moon is behind our earth and earth is in the middle of sun and the moon. It gives the same effect. It's just because like the moon is attracting the water towards itself, then the sun is attracting towards water itself. Okay, like these are kind of attracting both in the opposite direction. But what happens is that due to the imbalance that occurs, our earth's centrifugal force kind of balances it. Like the amount of water that is dragged by moon will be affected in this part, and then the amount of sun that is kind of attracting towards it, the centrifugal force is counter that in the opposite direction. So both of these things CZG are giving us spring tide. Okay, just remember this both positions, and then we will move towards the neap tide. So what is neap tide? So neap tide is the position of the earth when the earth, moon and the sun are all together forming right angle triangle. Okay, so these are placed like that. You might know like this kind of position occurs when there is the first quarter phase of the moon and the last quarter phase of the moon. So this is the kind of position when we get to see neap tides. Now neap tides are not actually lower tides. These are only lower than the spring tides, but they are actually more, like they are higher than the normal high tides. So you have to take that difference like in your like mind. Okay, you have to understand this. Like in your textbook it is given that neap tides are lower tides, but it is not actually lower. It is just lower than the spring tide, but it is actually higher than the normal tide, normal high tide. Okay, so you can see here by this position what is happening over. The moon is kind of attracting the water towards it this direction, and the sun is attracting towards it. Okay, and what happens is that both of these forces kind of exert an resultant force on the earth in this direction. So what happens is that in this direction you get to see the high tides are going, and this kind of tides are called as neap tide, which are just lower than the normal spring tide. Okay, but they are higher than the average high tides. So that's all for neap tide and spring tide, and in the next video we are going to learn about waves. Okay, so until then, take care and bye bye.